Hi, Robin Shades here with streamsofenergy.com, and today Bob the Wise Fool is going to be answering another question, and this question has to do with meditation. And it's a very simple question, just Bob, what are the various types of meditation? And tell me what you know about them.
Meditation is a transcultural phenomena, and what I mean by that is that every culture in the world has had different forms of meditation, but they've all had meditations. Some of them have called it prayer, and in order to talk about the bridge between meditation and prayer, would have to go into trance, which brings us to the Book of the Dead, because basically in Tibetan teachings there are 6 states of mind that our consciousness is moving through, and one of those 6 is trance states. It's waking, sleeping, dying, death, rebirth, and trance. And so trance is a gap unto itself. When we go into trance, we drop off time and space. All the experiences of how we perceive distance and relativity all shift. So you enter into a timeless space in deep trance. There's many ways of going into trance, different types of breathing, heavy breathing, slow breathing, concentrating on the breathing, using sacred sounds or using nonsensical sounds, repeating these sounds. That's a big one throughout most of the shamanic cultures. Using repeating beats. These are all different tools to help enable us to go into trance, but they don't work for everybody. That's why there's so many different types of meditation, because what works for one person might not work for another person. And the key is to find what works best for you, because one's not better than another. The whole point of the method is to enter into that space where we can experience the wider reality of time and space dropping off, of opening to that perception of awareness that is not constrained within our idea of things. Because meditation is basically where ideas stop. It's a you can't say it's a thoughtless state. It's a state of unified thought, but you can say it's a state beyond thought. It contains thought. Thought is a process within meditation, but so is feeling and perception. All those things are parts of the meditation. Each one can become a tool or a hindrance, depending on how we choose to relate to it. I've known people who their meditation is to plug their ears and block their eyes. They have to shut the world out in order to meditate. And when I saw that, I knew I did not really want to learn that type of meditation, because that's extremely limited. And it can be a great tool, and I think that sensory deprivation can be a very good thing, but if you become dependent on that to have peace, then literally you spend most of your life waiting to get back into that state. And that is not a meditative state, that's a fluctuant state. Meditation is a state of acceptance and openness. It's not a state of trying to make it be a certain way. And so it really depends on the type of meditation that we're practicing. In the beginning, meditation starts off as very narrow, and it almost always feels limited and constraining. But within that constraint, it opens to a wider perception. It's ironic because most beliefs start off like this and then move towards a narrowing, but meditation starts off by narrowing and moves in an openness. The longer you meditate, the more you'll transcend your belief. Like when I was in a Zen monastery, the first talk that someone gave, the guy sits down and goes, "The Buddha wasn't a Buddhist." He goes, "I consider myself an awakenist," which is what Buddha was, because that's what Buddha means, awakened one. And the Zen teacher was looking at him, and I could see dubiousness, and I was offended too, because I'm like, "Buddha, I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist." And it was because of that beginning narrowness. But the longer that you practice within any meditation, the more you will start to see beyond the beliefs that are around the meditation. Meditation itself transcends belief. Belief can become a tool within it, but the meditation itself goes beyond it. It really is beyond belief. Every culture has some form of it, and that's another illustration of why it's not constrained by belief. It builds belief, and belief colors it.
So definitely meditating in any shape or form is going to be beneficial to everyone.
Well, boy, that's a tricky one,
Oh,
you know. I mean, there are some people, it could encourage a psychosis. It could, I don't think anything is good for everybody all the time, you know, other than being present, you know, paying attention, and in that sense, it could be. But, you know, the idea of meditation or getting too attached to one form can be very bad for some people. It can make people into a bigger, arrogant person. That you can really have these states of deep samadhi, of deep concentration, and there are people who can transmit that samadhi to other people. They can make them see light. They can transmit their mind and space, and it becomes so it's blissful, and people become addicted like a drug to it. And that's where a lot of guru cults arise. And you know, in the beginning, it might be very fine. The guru is just trying to help them. And it's great, but oftentimes it becomes corrupt. It's a sad truth that it happens all over the world. Again, transculturally, it's a pattern that repeats itself. That the higher someone rises, the harder it is for them to remain humble. And so meditation can create what in Buddhism they call a rudra, which is the opposite of a Buddha, which is a being of pure arrogance, and a being that is all about self and me. And so instead of a liberated state, it creates an imprisoned state. So yeah, meditation has its pitfalls, you might say. But at the same time, I don't think it's really possible for us to really liberate our mind without some form of trance. We have to learn how to do it. That's why every culture did it. So it's a double-edged sword.
Well, that is an amazing explanation, because I would have never even thought of that angle of it. But as you described it, I can see, you know, instances where that has happened.
Some of the most neurotic people I've known are deep meditators.
Oh my goodness, I would have never thought that.
Yeah.
So maybe as a person steps into starting a meditative practice, if they're not already doing it, and even if they already are, maybe just being aware that it can actually have a negative side effect, being that aware maybe can help them to channel it into the best parts.
Yes, and questioning, always bringing the question to the experience, so we don't become too settled and don't think that we've accomplished something. Because the whole idea of accomplishing and getting somewhere is ego's game. And the more we feel that we have it all together, the more disappointed we're going to be when it all flies apart, because that's the nature of things, is it's all just going to fly apart. And when it does, how do we relate to that? And that's the whole point of spirituality. The whole point of meditation is learning to stay present and not freak out, not panic or react. Because in higher dimensional spaces, reaction is to move towards a whole other world. If you react in a higher dimensional space, you get ejected from it. And so in our body, we experience reaction as no big thing. But in the higher dimensional spaces, it's important not to. And meditation is one of the main ways learning not to react. Just stay present.
Oh, that was amazing. Well, as always, Bob is sharing wisdom with us that helps us continue to think and expand our own minds. So until next time, this is Robin Shades with streamsofenergy.com. Remember, spread love and gratitude.